Everybody says that you need to go to college to get a good job and a stable career. And after breaking into tech sales at 18, signing a six-figure offer from my high school multiple months before finishing, they're honestly not wrong. You 100% need something. Companies are not just gonna hand out six-figure offers to every 18-year-old that's applying. But the thing is, that thing that you need doesn't need to be a degree, and it could actually be something that you already have or could just get in a couple of weeks of hard work. And man, do I wish that I knew this earlier so that I could have sped up my results, because I was this close to not even giving myself a shot and going into college for 4 years, getting into debt just because I didn't know this. So here are the 20 brutal truths that you need to know about skipping college into tech sales, so hopefully you can do that and skip to sales. Number one is that you need to set bigger goals. When I first started, I had no idea if this was even possible. I talk to people all the time on Skip to Sales intro meetings that are not sure if they're capable of doing this. Even people that are in the program, they're not even 100% sure that they can do this. And when you know you can do it, or at least set yourself a really big goal that scares you, you work so much harder, so much more efficiently, so much faster, and you get to a better result. When I was applying, I wasn't sure if I could do this. And I was documenting the entire thing, filming. I wish I didn't delete everything, but I was recording everything, and I told my mom it would be such a cool title if I wrote getting a six-figure role at 18. And she was like, 6 figures? That's what I make. And I was like, yeah, you're right, probably like 75, 80K. That's really all I realistically need to allow myself to use that instead of going to college. And that limiting belief, if that didn't exist, I would have gotten there so much faster. I would have probably gotten better offers, more offers. Because I ended up getting a role that was 120 to 150K OTE. Realistically, it was 120K OTE. And I didn't even believe that I could do it. If I knew that I could do it and I focused on those roles from the very beginning instead of the 65, 75K roles, I would have gotten there faster and better. And in the company that I was working, the way that they set goals is based on the CEO's targets of what he wanted the company to triple and accelerate growth, and then reverse engineer based on that what every person needs to do. It has nothing to do to what you think is actually capable, but just what you need to actually do to hit your goals. And that number was so big and so scary, and the whole goal was for you to look at the number and think, how in the world am I going to get to that number? And guess what? As an SDR, I sucked. I started really, really bad, and then I turned around and became number one of 30 SDRs. And that's because of that number. It got me to work 16-hour days, super efficiently, putting in the system because I needed to get to that goal. So make sure that you believe in yourself. When you set yourself a goal that is so scary, that it just forces you to figure it out. Number two is that being likable and understanding people is by far the number one biggest thing that you can do for sales, for life, for interviews. The number one skill that you need to understand is how to get people to like you. You 100% need, non-negotiable, to read How to Win Friends and Influence People. You need to understand how people talk and interact with yourself. Because when you're applying to roles, when you reach out to people to get referrals from them, when you hop on the calls with them, when you do the interview, when you start as an SDR, this is by far going to be the number one thing that gets you the referrals, gets you to pass the interviews, gets you to book meetings, and eventually as an account executive to close them. This is not a negotiable by any means. You have to read this book, because I see people finishing college, people working in sales that I work with, they just skip over fundamental concepts, cutting people off, not knowing how to read the room, not knowing how to get people to like them. And if you can't do that, you're just missing on so many doors. So 100% read How to Win Friends and Influence People. Number three is there is literally zero advantage that fresh college grad has over someone who just finished high school when it comes to landing in an SDR role in tech. Literally zero. Because chances are, even if they studied marketing, business, communications, how much have they actually learned about sales that you don't learn in 1 week of doing it? No shame to anybody I was working with, everybody amazing people. When I was an account executive, every single SDR that was there was at the very minimum 22 years old, if not older, maybe got in their masters too, 24 years old. And at the end of the day, that got them zero advantage over me, just because I got into sales right after. I was in the company for longer with them. I was able to already produce results, learn how to do it, and I was just ahead of them because they just got into it. Especially for sales, because all it comes down to is who can produce more at the end of the day. And the way that you learn that is by getting the role, getting the training, and putting in a ton of reps and hard work. You can literally outwork like 99% of people and just get better results with them over a period of a couple of months. My dad was always telling me this growing up. Whenever he hired accountants, he's a CFO, whenever he hired accountants, and they were fresh out of college, he basically assumed that he knew nothing about what they wanted him to do. They trained him from the ground up, as if the degree didn't exist. Of course, they didn't hire anybody without a degree, but they literally completely ignored it. All you need to do is just find a way to stand out, and when you actually get to the role, there is literally zero advantage anybody has over you. Number 4 is that you have to lock in your right mindset, and that goes into everything that I was saying before, but there's a couple of really specific things that you need to know. And number 1 is that this is 100% the best path for you, because if you understand, you can literally lock in for a couple of weeks, save yourself 4 years in those couple of weeks, thousands of dollars, the opportunity cost, and actually get yourself in a position where first year you're actually getting $90,000. Obviously there's taxes, but then second year you can put yourself in way more and then eventually start your own business with those skills. It is by far the best path you can do. So the best thing that you can do is just lock in, put your head down for a couple of weeks and just go for it. And once you figure that out, just know that you're going to get rejected a ton at first. In sales, when you cold call people, you'll cold call sometimes 100 people in the same day and get 0 bookings. And the same goes when you do the job to get the job. Guess what? Your cold call managers, they're not even gonna pick up. Or when they pick up, they'll be in a meeting, or you accidentally call a recruiter and those get pissed. And then you send emails, they'll not respond. And when you do get your first interviews, you're still going to suck because you get so nervous and you have no idea what to say. And it's going to take time and rejections until you actually know what you're doing. So after you realize this is by far the best path for you, you need to realize that you're going to fail at the beginning. And expect it. Just apply to companies that you don't care about as much at first, because you're going to have those failures. You're not going to be good at first, and it will take time until you get there. And the best thing that you can do is just focus on the input at the beginning. I got so obsessed with my inputs, how many messages I was sending to reach out to people, how many interviews was I able to get, how many hours did I put into practicing, how many repetitions did I get in those hours, and I tracked everything really, really religiously, because I knew that's what will eventually get me to a point where I was shaking like this underneath the table when I was interviewing, to where I had 10 interviews in a single week, 5 in a single day, and I literally knew everything that they were going to ask me. Once you lock in that mindset, it's literally going to change everything for you. And after you get that, you understand this is the best path, you understand you're going to fail at first, you use those to practice, you focus on the inputs. What you need to understand is that at any given moment, you only need to focus on what the bottleneck is. Exactly the way it would be in a business, right? Because there's different stages to getting an offer. And that's getting interviews consistently and then passing them consistently. And there's different things, whether that be you're struggling with getting referrals, or you're struggling with getting your resume past the point where people actually continue with you after they see your resume or your LinkedIn. And then after that be the first round interviews, or the second, or the third, or doing the cold calls. But at every point there's going to be a part of the system, because it's literally linear, that's going to keep you stuck. So if you're at a point where you're consistently getting through first round recruiter interviews, but you're not getting through the second ones when it's the SDR assessment, the worst thing that you can work on is improving your resume, because that's not going to make a difference on those interviews. The only thing that you need to do is get more of them and get more practice. So film yourself, understand what you're doing wrong, but you do not need to focus on the things that you already figured out and are already working for you. Because I see so many people doing that mistake and revamping their resume so many times, when in reality, you work on that for 2 hours for your resume and LinkedIn combined, and you're all set forever. I'm not keeping track of the numbers anymore, but the next point that you need to understand is that whatever company you're talking to is actively hiring for a role. Yeah, there's a ton of ghost job openings, but at the end of the day, for sales, they're always looking for salespeople for the most part if they have job openings. And having been on the other side, seeing recruiters, sales managers, CEOs trying to get their recruiting goals right, I understand that you have just as much leverage as they do. Yeah, especially like the first round interviews, you want to make sure that you leave a good impression. But at the end of the day, they also need to leave a good impression on you. They need you. That's why they're hiring, and they're talking to 300 people, and only one of them is going to get a good role. So if you know you're capable of outworking everybody there, and you know that you can do the job for them, you're genuinely capable of doing it after some training, understand that they need you. They want someone that's good. They're talking to 300 candidates, and the second that they find the person that's right, they don't need to do that anymore. Them and they get nervous. So if you're cold calling them and you're nervous because some of them are telling you to fuck off or are mad that you do it, which are mostly just going to be recruiters, not sales managers, understand that that's not the company that you want to work at anyway. Because what type of company actively looks for a role, right, to fill in like a salesperson and then gets mad when a salesperson calls them to pitch themselves? So just understand that, yeah, you want to get it, but they want to get someone just as bad as you. The next point is that you're capable of getting so much more done, you're just not in the right environment. And I know this because when I was working on my college apps, I procrastinated like crazy. But then the second I started working on my tech sales applications, I just found ways to make things work, and that forced me to get into different environments. So I didn't do anything in my house. I never did any work there, whether that be specific rooms in my school or in my lobby is where I would go a lot. Or if I did do it in my house, I'd do it super early. I'd close the curtain, I'd turn off all the lights, have brown noise with binaural beats on going, and just making sure that I'm in the right setting that actually allows me to be as productive as possible. Because for the months before that, I would procrastinate like crazy. But then after I started doing all of those things, I became so locked in that one time my mom literally knocked on my door and I didn't realize she was there just because I was so locked in. And I didn't even have AirPods at that time. And I realized this way more when I started working in an office. I wanted to work in person because I knew I'd grow more from the connections, I'd learn faster, and I just wanted to do it. And once I started working in person, I became the most productive person I ever thought that I could be. Even if other people were not doing anything next to me, they were talking to each other, playing around, the fact that I was there, I was just able to work because I knew I'm here to work. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to outwork everybody that's next to me, just talking, yapping, doing whatever. So if you're struggling with procrastinating, you're not as efficient as you can be, you need to put yourself in the right environment so that you can be as efficient as possible. In talking about being efficient, you need to systemize everything. Every outreach message that you send should become a template at some point. Every job application that you're doing should become a template at some point. Every interview prep should eventually become systemized. And you can systemize all of those things, and then you become so efficient so that whenever you get an interview, you can actually focus on the things that matter most, and you're able to spend more time getting interviews, getting more practice for the interviews, and focusing on whatever the bottleneck is. But if you're not systemizing anything and you're just going off the grain, redoing every job application from scratch, thinking of what to say before the interview, before you get a referral and you hop on a call, when you do your outreach messages, your cold calls, you're going to be burning out so much time, and it's going to take you years to learn a role. When in reality, if you just learn from your mistake and you systemize everything that you do as you go, you're going to just cut the amount of time that you're doing it in half. The next point is that not everybody are going to get it. Like in life, and I mean that in so many ways, right? Like the fact that you're 18 and you don't want to go to college and you want to get into sales. And I mean, people that you're asking for referrals are not going to get it when you outreach to them if they find out. A ton of recruiters are not going to understand, sometimes SDR managers themselves, and also some of your friends and your teachers and your parents and your uncles and your grandparents. Like they're just not going to understand it, especially the beginning before you get enrolled, but also when you first started the role and you don't see your success yet. It's just going to take time, but at the end of the day, you need to understand that if you have different versions of what success looks like for you, what your success looks like, where even if you went down what they think is success, you went to college for 4 years, you were able to pay off your loans, become a doctor, whatever, make $200K a year eventually after a couple of years in the corporate world climbing slowly. Would that even actually be success for you? Or are you looking to expedite it, just use sales as a launch pad and learn a skill? Maybe you want to do it for a longer time, or just you're using it to save 4 years, thousands of dollars, and eventually you want to put that towards your own or branch into a different career. Or just figure out what you do. Instead of going to college not knowing what you want to do, you go into sales not knowing what you want to do, and you get paid to learn and you go from there. But at the end of the day, if you have those different versions of what success looks like for you, you're bound to disappoint either yourself or them. And then the question just becomes, who are you going to disappoint? And I knew for a fact, I could not imagine looking down back at myself and knowing that I never even gave myself a shot. Never even tried. Because at the end of the day, one of the next points that I'm going to get to is that you don't even need to burn all the bridges. I applied to 20 colleges. I got a 1460 on the SAT through a ton of studying. And only then did I even start looking. When I was getting my college decisions, did I start looking at tech sales roles. And guess what happened? I was just thinking, maybe I'm not even going to go and I'll go to college anyway. But everybody's going to have all their college decisions where they look at this school and this school and this school and decide which one they're going to go to. And I'll have this school and this school and this school and this company and this company. And then guess what happened? I got my offers, I got my college decisions, and then I looked. I pay $60K to go to this school for 4 years and then maybe get a job. This one is a public one, it's this, and I'll pay $13K to learn general business education. And I get this role for $120K. Where I get to learn, they pay for my food, my transportation, my learning stipend. I get to spend it around people that I'm genuinely excited to be with. They're all working super hard, going after a skill. I learned that skill for myself, and then I get other offers as well. Which route am I going to go? Because at the end of the day, even if I went that route and I really sucked and I realized it's not what I want to do with my life, then what's the worst that happens? I can use that in a college application and I'll get into much better colleges because I was able to land a 6-figure role in sales, cold calling CEOs, being able to sell them. Eventually I became an account executive within that same year. You don't have to burn all the bridges. You just need to go for it, and then you have your decision you can make after you get your offer. But at least go for it. I mean, if I didn't go for it, and I was this close to not even trying, just because of what other people thought and what I thought that I was capable of, I would have been graduating, well, not graduating, I would have been finishing my freshman year of college right now. And I'm like so much farther ahead at this point. Like the skills that I learned, who I became as a person, the money that I've made, I'm able to use all of that to make it into my own business. I would have been finishing my first year of college, probably like 20K in debt by now. Hopefully not a degenerate, even though all the people around me would be. And what would I have learned at that point? Sure, my network could be a little bit better, but realistically, look at my network now when I was able to, one, work with people who are so much more experienced, sell to them, but also the people that was working around doing it. So if you're even thinking about it, at least do your due diligence and try to do it. Maybe you even fail, but at least you get the role and then you decide, do I want to do this or that? Maybe just take a gap year, try to do this, and then decide. But you're going to be so much farther ahead, even if you end up going to college after this, if you just try. And you have to be as authentic as possible. After I got my role, I was so ashamed and embarrassed of telling people, and I would tell them I'm just doing it for a gap year. Even though I knew that I'm never planning to go to college in my life, I just told them it's a gap year just because it was easier to explain. And the fact of the matter is when you're not authentic, you're going to repel the people that you actually want to be with, and you're going to attract the people that you don't want to be with. You're going to attract the people that don't align with your goals, that are thinking that college is what you need to do, that might be more degenerate, that might not see the vision, because that's the way that you are portraying yourself. And the people that don't respect college, that respect going after yourself, going after sales, being entrepreneurial, you're going to repel them because they think that they're going to associate you with the people that you're trying to associate yourself with. So 100%, the biggest thing that I did to improve this is just owning it like crazy. Because at some point, you're just going to need to accept it. You want to be as authentic as possible so you can actually attract the people that want to be with you. Because if you don't, when you attract the people that want to be with you when you're not your authentic version, when you eventually want to be yourself, guess what? They're not going to want to be there anymore because that's not the person that they were attracted to. So just be yourself. Next is that people want to refer you, but you're just making it hard for them to refer you. I kid you not, I would get so many messages, and keep in mind, people were incentivized. In my company, $5,000 if you refer anybody for it, and they get the role, and they last for 3 months. $5,000. There's people that would actively go and try to find people to refer from their colleges or their schools or whatever. And I would get so many people reaching out to me. Most of the outreach sucks. And I'll still talk to them just because I was like, I was in this position, I want to help people out. And then when I get on the call with them, it just feels like when I refer them to the recruiter, one, I feel like they're not going to have a chance because they can't even have a solid conversation with me and even ask for the referral, even though like they're basically wasting my time. And it almost feels like if I had given them a referral or connected them with a recruiter, it would hinder my name because I don't want to be associated with them just because of the way that they carry themselves in outreach. I just didn't think they'll actually be successful. And if you just show them that you're serious about it, that you have decent communication skills, you can read the room, you can actually ask them to refer you because that's what you're going to need to do in sales anyway. They're going to respect you a lot more and they're going to want to refer you. Literally like 95% of the time, probably more, when I got on calls with current SDRs, they referred me. Even if they didn't know how, they talked to their manager after and just connected me and figured out how the referral process worked. I had one person the entire time who didn't end up referring me, and I was still able to use that to eventually call the SDR manager. And the reality is most people that I talk to, I just wanted to get off the phone as soon as possible. Next is that the biggest cost to college is not how much money it actually costs, because yeah, you're gonna go into debt. But at the end of the day, it's 4 years. And how far can you get in 4 years? I already rambled about how far I could have gotten in 1 year. Now imagine in 4 years, like 3 more years, and it's going to compound. It's not gonna look like this now. It's like I started, and now I'm able to put that towards my own business. It's gonna skyrocket, right? But at the end of this year, it's already gonna be here. And just watch, 2 more years, it's gonna be an extreme projection. I mean, I became an account executive when I was still 18, 5 months after. I would have been still in my first semester of college when I became an account executive in tech sales. Semester, not even year. And it, like the cost just becomes like, yeah, the tuition of like say only 50K thousands. And then if you only make 100K a year on average in the 4 years, which would be pretty bad if you're 4 years in tech sales, that's 400K that you're missing on. So now we're talking about like 450. And then the network of the people that you can talk to, the skill that you'd be learning, and the experience you would actually have to get a job, which is what you would do if you were to go to college. You'd go and try to get an entry-level role. So you would have 4 years of experience, and it's like millions of dollars that you're losing on just by not giving yourself a shot. So if you're thinking that money is the reason that you're going to college, you're thinking about it the completely opposite way. And next is that you're going to grow a ton as a person and expand your network no matter what. Like that's the number one thing people told me. Really, you don't want to have the college experience and network so much and like grow so much as a person and move out and all those stuff? And I'm like, I'm literally going to sell, learn how to sell. I'm going to be talking majority to CEOs, vice president of sales, sales managers. I'm going to do it with other people who actually align with me instead of people that are going to be drinking that I'm not going to want to network with. And listen to professors who haven't done business to teach me about it. And not only are you going to grow so much as a person by putting in the hard work to stand out, working with so many people that are much more advanced than you, learning the skill of sales, making money on yourself, being able to provide for yourself. Like, which one do you think you will genuinely learn more, that or going to school? Like that's like the least reasonable excuse or reason to go to college. And that goes perfectly to the next point, which is adults are literally kids. Like, it's insane that I didn't realize this in high school, but there's literally no difference. And I don't even know how to say this in words, but the first time that I realized this is when I went to my first in-person interview, wore a suit, and I just heard the way people talk around the office, the exact same way that they talked in high school. There's gonna be the dumb ones, the slow ones, the ones that don't understand anything, the ones that ask way too many questions, and the one that can't read the room. And the reality is that you're still gonna be able to outwork like 99% of people by just trying. And it's funny because like even for me, when I was an account executive and I had people like the freshest DRs that just finished college a couple of months ago, and I'd look and I'd see that some of them were just kind of immature, and I'm like, that's insane to me. Like that I could have been there in 4 years. Because it actually does not change anything, and it's just the people that work hard are just going to get so much farther in life. And tying back to the point of the fact that they're actively looking for a role, you need to create some sort of urgency. You want to sprinkle in the fact that you're interviewing at other places. Like you don't want to do it toxically, but if they ask, you just say, I am interviewing a couple of different places, given I am graduating and I am looking for a role. If I was to get an offer, it would probably be in the next 2 to 3 weeks. That said though, given everything that I've done in my research and this conversation so far, this is definitely a front runner that I'm excited about. And all that you need to do, you don't need to make it like you're talking to that many, like overly do it. You don't want to say you get an offer next week. You don't want to make it look like you're talking to better companies with them. But all that does is, if they actually like you, that allows them to expedite you through the process. And when they do give you an offer, they're going to come in a little bit higher on that range because they want to get you to their company, and they know that you're also talking to other ones. Let alone the fact that humans, whenever they know that they're fighting for someone, they're going to try harder. Like they're going to start talking to you, and subconsciously in their mind they're going to tell you why their company is good, and then subconsciously they're going to want to sell you to get to their company, and then when you say that you do, they're going to be excited for it. The next point, which I realized, which is so funny, is that literally everybody gets FOMO for not doing this, especially after a year. Whether that be people in the company, new people that I met, whether that be people from my high school that I talked to, people that are in college that I meet, they're all saying that they wish they did it, but almost nobody even tried. And that's after you get that offer, after I've done it for a year, after I was able to get success. Everybody's like, oh, I wish that I did this. But before, when you're just trying, when you're thinking of it, when you first start, everybody's going to like not understand what it is that you're trying to do. But then after, every single person is going to get FOMO about it. Next is the conversation with your parents. Because at the end of the day, your parents just truly want what's best for you. Truly. For the most part, I hope. I know my parents truly wanted what's best for me. And they still did not support this at first. They still wanted me to go to college for a long time, even after I got the role. Now they don't anymore. But it's because they want what's best for you. And things just haven't always been this way. That's generally what they think, is you will see more success and you'll make more money by just having a stable job that you'll get by going to college. Or even my dad, like he's not an entrepreneur himself, but he knew that, like he kind of wanted to push me to do entrepreneurship after he's seen other people, and he still wanted me to go to college. And didn't understand what I was doing when I said sales, especially when I talked about buying mentorships online to help me get into sales. He flipped out for a bit. When I got the role, they were still embarrassed, because at the end of the day, their status is going to go down. Whether they think of it subconsciously, whatever it is, when they talk to their parents, their friends, their co-workers, and they tell them that you're not going to college, their status is going to go down. And nobody wants that at the end of the day, but they want what's best for you. And over time, as you have the conversation with them, as they see more success, as they see how well of a person you're becoming, turning from a boy to a man, from a girl to a woman, being able to provide for yourself, being able to learn the skills, working super hard to hit quota, literally working among adults, then over time they're just going to respect you more, and eventually just wouldn't even make sense to bring up college anymore. And talking about mentorships very briefly, one of the best things that I did is I didn't even take that much time to learn about the industry. Like I just learned a little bit. I was like, okay, I want to do this. I'm just going to invest in some mentorship because somebody's already done this. They know exactly what I need to do. And I was able to cut the time that I was doing it. And I'm not saying it needs to be like skip the sales or anything like that, but find someone who's been to where you want to be, who knows how to get there, who's done it before. And then you can just walk their path and learn from their mistakes. Because everybody always says that smart people learn from their mistakes, wise people learn from the mistakes of others. And if you can just be ahead of yourself, know what you don't know, learn what you need to learn, you're just going to land a better role in much less time. And the very last lesson is that you're never, ever going to feel ready to do this. When I went to my first day, when I first started applying, when I invested in that mentorship, when I did my first interview, when I was shaking, when I was doing the in-between classes, never did I feel ready to do it. Eventually, I got really comfortable with the interviews. Yes, sure. But to get to that point, you just gotta pull the trigger and realize this is something that might be helpful for me. I should just start doing it, because if I don't, then I'm going to be going to college for 4 years. And it's like you can pull the trigger, give yourself a couple of hard weeks, 2 months of hard work, and you can genuinely change the trajectory of your life and start putting yourself on that upward momentum. And all it takes is just putting your head down and just making the decision that you will at least try. Like, you don't need to commit. You don't need to burn all the bridges, like I said. But you need to just go before you are ready. Because you can watch a bunch of YouTube videos, but at the end of the day, there's certain things that you're just going to learn when you get hit with a certain objection, when you try to get an interview, when you're on an interview, and you're just going to learn from your mistakes at some point. So if you know this is what you want to do, or maybe if you're not even sure this is what you want to do, I made an entire video, it's 40 minutes long, of how I was able to do it, why I got into it, the messages that I literally sent to get interviews, what I said on interviews, so that you can do the same thing and just start. So if you're not even sure if this is what you want to do, just watch that video, learn, because it can save you the 4 years. And if by the end of that video, you feel like it might be something that could be benefit for you, just go for it and just try. Because you do not want to wait 4 years, look down the line, and realize that you never even gave yourself a shot.